Hello!
Hello, AOS fans!
It's the Agents of Gnarlwood.
And today we've got a live overview match of the day style report of Hexbanes versus
Garreks Reavers.
Yeah, it's a rematch. I narrowly won the first game.
Despite rolling more crits than I think you rolled dice.
I think that almost put me off.
Oh yeah, I hate it when that.
Yeah, well, that sounds really stupid.
From too many crits.
But I almost, because I started to feel embarrassed in the middle of the game.
Yeah.
And I kind of thought, oh, this is a bit.
Like, I can't take it. I'm going to roll more crits.
Exactly. So I kind of took my eye off the ball, and suddenly and I was actually quite lucky. I drew into the right cards at the end to win. So I actually thought I was going to lose the game, despite rolling more crits than anybody's ever seen anywhere.
Yeah, it was absolutely insane. Yeah. Absolutely insane.
So that was a really good game. Yep. We thought we'd do it again. We thought we'd do it our new heads up commentary style.
Yes. So we're going to try and run you through the game. There'll be video, obviously, as there always is, and we're just going to try and give you our interpretation or our logic and reasoning
what we were trying to do,
exactly,
where we made mistakes.
Yeah.
Because there's at least one. And so I hope you enjoy it. Do let us know in the comments below. I know lots of you did enjoy our first one of these. We did. I know a few of you did say we prefer the live ones, but we're going to do both.
Yes.
So there's room in our inventory at the moment for doing both. So we're going to carry on doing both, and then hopefully we'll keep all of you happy. So I kept all my cards. I had proof of guilt in the objectives, which I wasn't. It's not easy to score turn one, but I had 2 surge cards. I didn't want to shuffle those back in. I had to make 4 attacks though, which is going to keep things interesting, or get 2 successful ones, but also maybe try and support you with a Savage Fighter, which was actually going to prove more tricky than I thought.
For me, I had no surges in my hand, and this was after getting rid of all of them and redrawing them, so I was pretty ticked off with that.
Oh, sucks to be you.
Yeah, I had to basically try and play with the end game in mind. The Hurricane Force was one I was going to try and score by getting all of my fighters into your half. And also, if I was lucky, maybe Khorne would care not, but I was unlikely to have 5 bodies littering the field, so I was probably just going to have to go for Hurricane Force and move or die. I decided to keep my opening power cards though, because I did have Call to Heal, which might be handy to get my fighters into your half, Insensate to stop one of my fighters taking too much damage early on, and Blood Offering to give me those extra dice that Khorne needs so very much.
That would be a crazy first round if you scored Khorne clears not.
It would be absolutely mental.
I suppose you could kill 2 dogs, maybe, but that'd be hard.
Robin won the choice of board placement and decided to offset them a bit, trying to be tricksy there.
I think I just wanted to try and keep you at least a couple of your fighters out of my face turn one.
Yeah, well, it doesn't really work with Garrek because they are super speedy.
They are very quick.
I did then win the initial roll-off and I made Robin go first.
Oh, it's not what I wanted.
It's probably what I'm going to regret.
With that card in hand, which meant I had to make lots of successful attack actions or make 4 attack actions, I basically got straight to it, charged with Pock onto an objective, remembered to use the dog interaction to bring him up to support. I rolled a crit.
Starts already. I obviously didn't get a crit in my defence, and Pock does 2 damage.
2 damage.
That's first kill to Robin and 1 glory.
So with that glory, I played Feral Alteration on Haxel. Feral Alteration is a good card for the Hexbanes because they've got low wounds. So it's +1 wounds, but you can't give it to a large fighter. And it also gives a +1 move because they're quite slow too. So it's pretty useful.
So onto my activation, and I charged with Targor, the surviving Danglebro, to attack the other Doge and completely miss.
And so it goes on. Realising that I want to score mauled, I did the rather crazy thing of playing Internal Surrender onto the dog, which is not really a great card target for Internal Surrender, but it made him savage. And I needed, for mauled, I needed a Savage Fighter to support. So if Bridget could get her attack off in the next activation, then I would score an objective.
Targor's in trouble. So
Bridget charges Targor, piles in, dog's assisting, and I roll 3 hammers, which is about the most useless dice roll I could get, and completely and utterly missed. I'm
now a little bit happier. I decided at this point to play a Blood Offering onto Saek. Gives him a wound, but it turns him into a 4 hammer attack next go. So on my second go, I charge with Saek to attack Pock. I roll and I get a crit.
Oh, I'm never going to get a crit, am I? I do indeed get a crit.
I do push him back, and then I play Insensate on Saek, so he doesn't die this turn at least. He can only take 1 wound maximum on Robin's next go.
Bearing in mind that Peter's played Insensate, I just charge with Haxel, which probably only do 1 damage anyway, and I do just roll 1 sword for the shooting attack.
I do not save it, which means Saek takes a 2nd wound. He's now got 1 left.
That counts as a successful attack. So due progress triggers, and I do get a glory for that because that was two successful attacks in the round. So I draw Weapons of Justice, which is kind of fortunate because it involves having 2 upgrades on somebody. I've got 1 in hand, I've just got a glory. So I pop Gifted Ferocity onto Haskell, giving him 2 upgrades, and I immediately score Weapons of Justice.
Just doesn't end.
Sorry. And I draw into Sowing Doubt.
On my next go, I decide to charge with Garreks to take out that dog. I think Garreks got something against dogs because I did a very similar thing in our previous game. And like our previous game, completely misses the attack again.
Khorne doesn't care from where the blood flows, but Garrek clearly does.
Yeah, I then use Call to Heal to pull Garrek away and over to Sayek's side to try and give him some assists because I have a feeling Robin's going to go after him next, but I do misplace him when I put him down. I should have put him on the objective instead, so he's not in the best place possible.
Ahead of the next turn, I play Determined Brutality, which basically gives somebody in snare, can choose somebody to have in snare, which is really good against Garreks, because I've only got 1 dodge. So I use Amos to attack Sayek. I roll 1 hammer. Pete's got to get a crit.
And I got it! No, I didn't. I didn't get it. 1 Sayek bites the dust, and it's 4-0 to Robin. So on my 4th go, Carsus now charges in to take on that dog, trying to do the job that Garrek couldn't. And I get a crit and success, which the dog can't stop, and he dies.
Oh, so the dog is dead.
Yes.
But you don't get a glory.
No. Don't think Khorne is a fan of killing animals.
I inspire Pock and the other dog as a result of that death.
One upside of all this, though, is my fighters are now inspired. I've only got 3 of them left, but at least they're all inspired and extra angry.
So in the end phase, I amazingly score Proof of Guilt thanks to that last charge from Carsus, putting everybody in my half. I didn't think I was going to score that this turn, but that was 2 glory. And I was rejoicing, thinking, ha-ha, I've totally stuffed him. I discard Mauled because actually getting that Savage Fighters in supporting roles is proving trickier than I thought. And I've already blown that dog card, which is now gone because it was just a persisting gambit till the end of the phase. So I decide to ditch that, try and find a better luck with my next draw.
Now, whilst Robin is quite happy that I am all in his half to help him score stuff, that doesn't mean I score Move or Die for 1 glory, because everybody on my side has a charge or a move counter, but I also scored Hurricane Force for 3 glory.
Yes, because the dog wasn't quite in, it was in no man's land. If I had just been stepped over the line, you'd have been done.
So very close. It would
be worth bearing that card in mind in future, I think.
Yes. I then draw 2 objectives and 5 power cards. The score is now 6 plays 4.
That's very close. Okay. Despite my racing out to a 6-0 lead, suddenly it's very close. Going into round 2, looking at my cards, I've got Macabre Spectacle as one of my objectives. Score this immediately after a friendly fighter's attack action that took the target out of action if the friendly fighter was savage before you activated them. It's one of those cards which looks good on paper, and then when you actually get into a game, it's looking less good. That's the only surge I've got. Sowing Doubt, 1 or more enemy fighters are out of action, and 1 or more of those enemy fighters have 1 or more upgrades. I haven't scored that yet, despite taking out a couple of your fighters.
You don't want to be too good on that one.
Yeah, you don't want to give them too early. I've just got to get you to get an upgrade on. The good thing about playing Garreks is that they're still not that good once they've got upgrades on.
This is true.
They're still quite easy to kill. And Tools of the Faithful, score this in phase if there are 3 or more surviving friendly fighters, each of them has 1 or more upgrade. That's looking quite hard to score right now. That's meant to come out towards the end of the game. I've got the Lucky Hexbane Foot, which is a great card I got by hook or by crook, which is another really good card. It's a reduced damage by 1 to a minimum of 1. But a key point, which I will forget later, is that it has to have 1 or more upgrades. Kind of glossed over. Dark Command, which I believe has newly been restricted for Championship. Choose 1 beast or 1 savage fighter, deal 1 damage to an enemy fighter adjacent to the chosen fighter. That's a really, really good card.
Ping damage, always nice to have.
The dogs can basically do that straight away.
Yeah. For me, I only have 1 surge card in my hand, so bearing in mind I redrew at the start.
Surge cards?
They're all, I think I must have left them all at home, and that surge card requires me to make 3 charge actions. I only have 3 fighters, so if you take out any one of them, I then have no surge cards I can score still. I still have Khorne Cares Not. I think I can get to 5 bodies by the end of the second round, hopefully. And I have It Begins, which is I score if at least 1 fighter on each warband is out of action, which I think we're already at that stage. So that's at least 1 glory there
Definitely
in the bag.
Get 1.
Of my upgrades, I've got Feral Instincts, which is a very handy card to give +1 damage to my fighters, because they roll quite a few dice, but they don't do a lot of damage, so that'll be great to use. Internal Surrender gives me another dice to my fighters to make them even more accurate. Frenzy to give me another dice when I make a charge action, and Savage Season to heal some of my fighters if they start to take some wounds.
It's an interesting choice, Savage Season, for Garreks. I guess it's good on Garrek, isn't it, I suppose?
Garrek and Saek, you took Saek out, but Garrek and Karsus also has 3 wounds as well.
I kind of always feel like if you've got fighters with 3 wounds, it's not worth taking. I don't think I took it, just because it's so many one-shotting go round.
Another good thing about that card, though, is that you can stagger the fighters, which will make them savage, which means if they're in a position to support you if you've got mauled, and I do have mauled in this deck, then that's another little angle.
There is a way to... I always just think, I don't want to stagger all my fighters that I heal because they're closer to being dead. I might as well have not bothered healing them.
There is that.
But I hadn't thought of that option. Round 2 then, and my luck continues. I roll a crit.
But I get 2 crits.
Oh, it's stinky. They just hate it when people roll crits.
Rah! And I decide to go first because I really need those charges. So Garrek decides to take the lead on this one and charges round to take out Amos because he does 3 damage, so he can take out the big lad. And I do get a crit, and Robin doesn't save it. So he's dead.
Well, he should be dead, but I've got by hook or by crook, but I hadn't read it properly. And funny enough, I think I tried to play it in our last game, but you have to have an upgrade, and I didn't have an upgrade, so I cheated there. I survived.
On 1 wound remaining.
1 wound remaining, but I shouldn't have done. Will that make a big difference at the end?
We'll find out. I do push him away, though, just to make sure he has to charge on his turn rather than getting a free swing in. Can read with the dark commands about now.
Bridget's going to try and atone for her previous round when she completely missed. And I activate Bridget, he have a go with her axes, and she completely misses again.
I'm 1 step closer to getting my Surge card.
As a reward, I put Lucky Hexbane foot onto her.
There you go, you're so rubbish. Here you go. You're going to need it because you're about to get slapped in the face. I decide to put Frenzy on Karsus to give him an extra attack dice when he charges, and then I also put Internal Surrender on him as well to give him another attack dice when he charges. He's rolling many attack dice.
So many attack dice.
So on my second go, I charge with Karsus into the thick of it, using his swirly-whirly attack to hit both fighters on Robin's side. I target Amos first, and I'm rolling 5 dice. I mean, you can't miss with 5 dice.
Well, you've forgotten the first rule of Underworld, which is that 5 dice attacks always miss.
And it did. Completely and utterly missed.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to cheat and have a charmed life, you might as well use it to its full. That's what Amos is thinking. So he survived, but it's a scything attack.
Yep, so I get to have a go at Pock next.
Yeah, and then you made up for your luck in the second goes. You've got 2 crits and a sword.
Yeah.
Which there's nothing I can do about that.
I mean, Pock may have 2 defense dice, but there's only so much you can do with 2 defense dice.
During the power step, I played Call to Heal to bring the dog up to Amos to try and get the extra supports in. So I make that attack with the Ghost of Amos, and he's clearly feeling a bit thin because he completely misses.
So on my third go, I make that 3rd charge with Tilegor, and he runs in between Garrek and Karsus to attack Amos, and I only get 1 success, 1 single assist.
But I don't find anything to defend it. And you've killed him, so make it 6 all.
Right, 6 all, and I finally score Blood for the Blood God, my first Surge card scored on the 3rd activation of the 2nd round.
And to take the lead.
So that's 1 more glory, 7-6 to me. At that point, I draw into Toyed With, which is fantastic because I just killed the fighter who had 1 wound left.
I'm going to use the Hexbane's reaction, which allows you to put upgrades on people when hunters are taken out of action. And I put Stubborn to the Bone on Bridget because try and reward her, try and make her a bit better. So for activation 4, I charge Haxel around the corner to shoot at Karsus. I get a sword and a single assist.
And I failed to get that crit that I need.
So you take the 1 damage.
No crit from you though, so it's not grievous.
I played Dark Command using the dog to put a 2nd damage on Karsus.
That card should be restricted.
So I was heading for the crit to try. The plan was to take Karsus out with that sneaky bit of damage there, but it didn't come off.
At this point, I play Savage Season to take that wound back off of Karsus again. He's already savage, so it doesn't really make too much difference at this stage.
But he is now staggered.
He is staggered.
He's staggering.
He's got 2 wounds left though. So on my 4th and final go, Karsus decides to try and get his own back on that Doge, and I get 2 crits and a sword.
Whoa.
Dog Pate, and that takes me up to 8 glory now.
I haven't scored from being 6-0 up. I'm now 8-6 down.
At this point, I then put Feral Instincts on Garrek to give him +1 damage. I think he's knocking out 4 damage now.
Ouch. Doesn't have to kill pretty much everybody on my team. In fact, everybody. For my 4th and final activation, I charge with Bridget for a bit of redemption, but no, she misses again.
She's missed, I think, nearly every time. Has she got the wrong end of the axe? She's got the wrong end of it,
yeah. She keeps cutting her fingers. So I think there's 3 solid attacks from Bridget, all missed.
Yeah.
So everybody talks about my dice rolls. They're not always that great.
In the previous game, they were pretty great.
They were pretty great. Yes.
So in the second end phase, I score It Begins because we both have a fighter out of action, and Khorne Cares Not because there are 5 bodies on the floor. This takes me up to 11 glory, playing Robin 6 right now.
So that's an 11 glory swing. You have scored 11 glory without reply. and I still don't reply because I've scored none of my in-hand objectives. Yeah, so it's going really quite badly for me. I figure these stories about the Hexbanes being the best warband out there and, you know, season warbands being rubbish are just not true. I get rid of Macabre Spectacle and Tools of the Faithful because I just can't see myself scoring that. I draw 2 new objectives and 5 new power cards.
I decided at this point to get rid of Toyed With because I'm thinking I don't want to leave any of your fighters alive when I attack them. I don't want to leave them on 1 wound because you might be able to attack me back. It's the last round, so I decided to get rid of that one. When I regret it, I guess we'll find out.
Okay then, so looking at my cards now for round 3, I've got an Eye for an Eye, which is a really great card. Basically, now you've got dead people, I just have to kill somebody and I score that. I've got Loaded for Bear, which I still don't really understand why it's called that.
Why is it a bear?
But I might score this, but I have got to have 2 or more friendly hunters alive, so it seems pretty unlikely. And Sowing Doubt, 1 or more enemy fighters are out of action, and 1 or more of those enemy fighters have 1 or more upgrades. So yeah, I kept that. And then in the power cards, I've got 4 upgrades now, but that's not too bad. I've got a bit of glory knocking around. I've got Bane of Evil, which is a great card on Haxel. And I've got Charmed Horseshoe, which gives extra dice to attack actions, which is a really, really good card. And I've got the opportunity to inspire hunters as well. So I'm not sure Bridget's inspired yet, because you haven't attacked Haxel.
No, you've kept him out of the way. I haven't been able to. I have a mix of cards at the end here. I have 1 Surge card still, so I think I've only had like 3 Surge cards out of everything in my deck. But it's Embrace Savagery, which I score immediately after an activation if each surviving friendly fighter is savage. There's only so many fighters knocking around now. I might be able to score that one fairly easily. Focal Point involves me having my leader near both one of my fighters and one of yours. That might be tricky depending on how many fighters are left alive. And Fully Committed, which I can't score even right now because I need to have 3 or more friendly fighters alive. I finally got Dark Command out, which will be handy to do another ping damage if I get one of your fighters nearly dead. I've also got Gore Swamp, which is almost completely useless, +1 move when we're all about 2 hexes away. Brutal Transformation is good for Targor, but I can't put it onto Garrek. Mark of the Stampede is also fairly useless because it's plus move and we're within spitting distance of each other. And Wicked Blade is a card for Arnulf and he's dead, so that's no use at all.
Wicked Blade you gave me.
So I've got loads of dead cards in my hand. This isn't what I want to see coming into the 3rd round.
So round 3, and I'm really looking at leading this roll off because you've basically charged through my warband in the previous turn. I don't want to lose any more fighters. I do roll a crit this time.
I don't get anything.
So I choose to go first. Hopefully my luck will turn. My first activation, I shoot with Haxel at Casters. I do capitalise it. I get a crit and 2 successes. And then I score an Eye for an Eye.
Boo.
So I only had to just kill 1 guy. So new Surge straight in. What am I going to draw? I've drawn another Surge card. I've drawn Toyed With, which is pretty lucky.
But it's not necessarily the one you want to see at this stage of the game.
No, it's not that lucky
leaving people alive.
because Casters was... was vulnerable.
Yeah.
But they come out the other way, it would be even better. I play Bane of Evil on Haxel, and I've just realised now as we do this commentary, I should have taken off the large fighter one because he's now got 5 wounds. So I hadn't noticed that. That is a slight problem with the large fighter rules, is when it's a lot to keep track of.
You kind of forget that you put something on them, and
and that was legal at the time, but then I forgot then forgot.
That has another impact in the game a little later on.
No! And I then realised I could play Lead the Crusade as a reaction to my attack to inspire Bridget.
So on my first go, I decided to charge Haskell with Garrek. It's big man on big man time, but I only get 1 hammer.
Oh, but I wrote nothing to save it with.
I completely forget about Garrek's Feral Instincts, which means he should have been doing 4 damage here, so I only think he's done 3.
And if he'd done 4, it would have killed him.
Yes.
Because I shouldn't have had the extra upgrade on him. So he's got 5 wounds. He's got 5 wounds when he should only have 4, and you've just done 3 wounds when you should have done 4.
Yeah, exactly. I then played Dark Commands to do a 4th wound, but that still leaves him, we think, on 1 wound remaining.
Yeah.
But he just should be dead at this point, and we completely mucked that one up.
Yeah.
Never mind, I can still be angry about the fact that I got rid of Toyed With, and I would have scored that instead, so...
Bridget still cashing in her reward card. She gets Charmed Horseshoe put on her this time. So for my second activation, I get another chance for Bridget to redeem herself. She's absolutely tooled up to the eyeballs.
Come on, Bridget.
She charges onto the objective, shoots, gets success.
But I get a crit.
So again, was that 4 failed attacks from Bridget?
think so, yeah.
So she's failed again.
Arnulf decides he wants to get some of his own back here, and he charges Bridget, and I do get a crit and a success.
Oh, I just get a dodge, but I have a reroll now.
Yes, because you've got your stun to the bone.
And I get a crit on that reroll.
God sakes. I do contemplate pushing him away, but then as Robin points out, if I do that and I get another activation next turn and he's still alive, I wouldn't get to smack her, so I decide to keep her where she is. I then do score Embrace Savagery because I've only got 2 fights. They're both savage, so I score another glory. It's now 8-12. And then I draw into Draw the Gaze of Khorne, which isn't a great card because that means I've got to kill 2 fighters this round.
So for my next activation, I charge with Haxel, and this time I don't want the crit because I want to score Toyed with.
Definitely don't want any crits.
And I roll 2 crits.
Bam!
Absolutely blowing Targor's head clean off.
We did actually have to check the rulebook at this point to see, do you have to count it if you roll it? But you do.
It kind of makes sense, doesn't it? It's kind of, I feel like it's kind of say you've severed an artery, or you didn't expect to.
We just shot me straight through the
I didn't mean to shoot you through the eyeball. I won't claim that.
Sorry about that.
So yeah, I didn't score Toyed with, but I do get the glory for killing Targor.
It's not the worst thing in the world.
No, I've had worse things happen to me.
Arnold hasn't. On my third go, as Garreks the only fighter left alive and he's not actually in base to base with anybody, so he can't make any attacks, I decide to get rid of Focal Point and I draw Paragon of Ferocity. Awesome. Just fantastic.
There's not much going on now, is there? I'm not going to score Toy with at this point, so I throw it away and I draw into Lives Well Spent, which I think actually is rather lucky.
I then get rid of Fully Committed because I don't have enough fighters for that, and then I draw Mauled. Fantastic. Awesome.
Here come your Surge cards.
They are all my Surge cards. So that's the end. We're into the end round.
Yeah, looking at my hand, I'm quite hopeful. I'm on an objective. I am going to score all 3 of these. Something Doubt I've carried, I think, since the beginning of the game. Which basically has to have 1 or more enemy fighters out of action, and one of those enemy fighters have to have 1 or more upgrades. Which finally I did.
Yeah.
I'm also holding Loaded for Bear because 2 of the fighters have 2 or more upgrades that are alive, and I score Lives Well Spent for 2 or more friendly hunters out of action, and I've scored 3 or more objective. So I score 4 glory there.
And so the current score is 13-12.
Now, had Haxel been dead, which he should have been, I would have scored less. I certainly wouldn't have scored Loaded for Bear because you have to have 2 fighters.
I'd have at least 1 glory, and if we had forgotten the fact that you had 5 wounds and that I did 4 damage, I possibly would have scored 2 glory for a large fighter. So possibly
I could never have had 5.
No, I know.
So you might have taken 2. But I didn't realise, but I couldn't. You could only ever have 1. Really.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't play it both ways, Peter.
So if I had, it would be 13 each. But then if he'd have been dead, he wouldn't have killed Targor with that bullet.
But I could have shot Targor with Bridget. Although the way Bridget was shooting,
she probably shot herself.
She killed herself, and you just scored another glory.
It's true. So it's 13-12 at the minute to Robin, and I scored nothing. All the cards I had at the end, I just couldn't score. I had no fighters left. Garrek wasn't near enough people. It all went wrong for me at the end there. The fact that the last 2 cards I drew out were both Surge cards was a little bit aggravating.
Yeah. Aggravating,
yes it was. And not in a good way for Khorne. So the final score is 13 plays 12.
Well played, sir.
Well played.
Again, Reavers show that they are really quite good into Haxel, or I'm really not very good at playing Haxel. One of the 2.
I just think Garrett's so straightforward with the Tooth and Claw deck. It's just charge in and start mashing faces, and they'll do well with it.
Yeah, I mean, if Bridget could have hit anything, it may have been a different game.
Could be different if I'd remembered that Amos should have been dead.
Exactly, but there's always those kind of things, aren't there?
What could have been.
Yeah. So well played. I mean, I almost feel like we should play a third.
I mean,
they kind of said we won't play a third because it was 2-0, but
it was 2-0.
I almost feel like actually that one.
That game was so close, and we messed up so many things.
Almost should have been your win, possibly. So maybe we'll play that. Maybe we'll play a third. But then there's so many other games to play. We've got a new war bag coming, so we may never get to do that.
So I hope you enjoyed this format still, and you enjoyed the game. Do let us know in the comments below what kind of war bands you'd like to see coming up against each other next.
Absolutely. We'll see you soon, somewhere in the Gnarlwood.
Bye.